Okay, awesome. So for the longest palindromic substring, so the way that I would recommend approaching it is um, so to use the property of a palindrome that like from if you expand from the middle, like left and right, like all of the letters should be the same on each side. So like if you had there are like two cases that you'd have palindromes for. So like an example of a palindrome that like race car is like it's very common, or like some other random palindrome um, is like ABBA. But like these are two cases where you start like if you start from like the middle element of this and then like compare the elements on each side, they should be the same. Like the difference between these two cases is that this one is like this palindrome has an odd number of letters and this one has an even number of letters. So in this case, you'd be like the middle letter wouldn't have to be compared to anything else, but like everything on the right side, everything on the right side would be compared to each other. But for the one where it's an even number of letters, there's nothing in the middle that's just standalone. It's just you compare like you like cut it in half and then compare both sides immediately. Um, and so like the way that I approached it was checking that first of all, if like the string s passed in is if it's empty, then you know that you don't have a palindrome, return 0. Otherwise, you you'd want to try to find the longest palindrome from assuming each character in the string s. For each character in the string s, start from the middle, like pretend like that's the middle of the palindrome and see like how far you can go to check um, if there is if you do encounter a palindrome by like checking the letters on both sides. So like in this there's this function that I define called expand, and it takes in the string s um, um, an index for left and an index for right. And so the left index is meant to check everything on the left of the middle of the string and compare it to right, which is going to check everything on the right from the middle of the string. And so like this base case is letting you know that if the string is empty or like left is greater than right, which shouldn't happen because like left should always be an index that's less than right, then return 0. Like this function is aiming to return the length of a palindrome, of the longest palindrome it finds, given um, string s, and then given left and right as the indices. Um, so, and then there's this while loop that checks as long as the indices left and right are within boundaries of the string s, and the character at at the index left is equal to the character at the index right, then you're gonna move left one index further back. So you like subtract 1 from it, and then you move right by adding 1 to it. So it's like if you're checking um, the string race car and you passed in, or actually, I'm just gonna use this as an example of a string passed in. So if this was S and then you gave left equal to 1, like index 1, which is the B, and then right also equal to index 1, it would be checking that the characters on left and right are the same, and then it would subtract 1 from left, so it would make that 0, and then it would add 1 to right, and then it would go back into the loop and then check that those letters are the same, and it only exits once it reaches the end of the string on either side, and or if the letters aren't the same, it's not a palindrome anymore, and it will return the length of in between the length of the string that's in between those indices by doing right minus left minus 1. Okay. And then, but that's confusing. I don't know why you have to do right minus left minus 1. Oh, I know why. It's because like in this while loop, like it'll go through it again. I think it increments it one more time to like be further that. So like you're supposed to, like if you did right minus left, like once it exits the while loop, it would actually give you the number 4, like 3 minus -1, but you want the length of the string. So you have to subtract 1 from it again to correct that the yeah. Okay. And so like if you call this expand function for each of the, if you like go through each of the letters that are in the string S, and then you are pretending that like the S at that position might be the middle of a palindrome, you're storing like a length 1 will search for palindromes. We'll search for the length of palindromes of even length because you're passing in oh wait, of odd length because you're passing in the same index for left and right. So that's the case for like ABA. And then you want to also check if that is the middle of a palindrome with index that with a palindrome of even length. So you pass in that index and that index plus 1. So like for example, a palindrome that's like ABBA, like you want to compare this index and that index first because there's nothing in the middle that makes it something of odd length. And then you choose whichever has the max of those lengths, and then you store, you check the length of like the maximum length palindrome that you found from pretending that the current index is the middle of that palindrome. You compare that to what you have stored in end and start, and if the length of the new palindrome that you found is greater, then you adjust the variables end and start. And like at the very end, once you exit this for loop, it will have replaced end and start with the actual indices of the longest palindrome. And so this just returns the substring of S from the start index to the end index. Was that clear to everyone? Does anyone have questions?
Can you talk a bit about the start and the end?
Yeah.
Like, does it get updated somewhere, or I'm just not, maybe I'm not seeing the where it gets like.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so like in this, whoa, that is the function for the longest palindrome, and I define start and end to be like 0 at first here, and I'm like, I update it within the for loop that I'm iterating through each letter in the string S.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, here I'm doing like the current index minus like length minus 1 over 2 should give like what that palindrome started at, like the index of that palindrome started at, and then end will give the index where it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. What are other ways that you'll try to approach this problem with?
We tried using a stack.
Ooh, okay. How did that go? What are some
Not so
problems
hot.
that you ran into? Like, was there like a significant problem that you ran into while trying to implement it?
Oh, for the stack? If we have a bunch of duplicates, it only really works if we all have like, if it's really just centered, like a very specific case of palindrome. But it was a cool idea. That was pretty cool.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I think also I might have put in like the form itself, like if people have like experience with stacks.
Yeah, you fooled us.
Yeah, it was a trick. No, it was just because that was used for the valid parentheses problem, which was like the easier one. But I guess everyone's advanced here, so they went for the medium. Yeah. And if no one else has any more questions, I think we can end the meeting. Thank you for joining. And sorry I'm so dead today. Oh wait, I should stop recording.